Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I hope you're fit. Well, I should be saying buongiorno, buonasera, ciao tutti, but depending where you are in the world. I've returned from one happy place, which is Bergamo in Italy, to another, right here with you lot. So good to be back-ish. I've eaten my body weight in snails, clams, baby octopus, and rabbit while I've been away, which is all good. And if you hear any reports of an Italian polenta shortage, you'll know precisely who to blame, because this guy. Incidentally, do need to tell you very quickly, we went into a bar in the Città Alta, which is the old city in Bergamo, up top of the. It's a big hill, small mountain. Not entirely sure which way you cut it, but it's up top. Went into a bar and we were sat there having our drinks and stuff. And there was a couple fairly close by who were eating, like they had a big board of meats and cheeses and all that kind of thing. So I called over the waiter and said, "We'd like a bit of that if you don't mind, sir." And he said, "Okay, I'll bring you the menu." So brought me the menu. It was in Italian, no great surprise. And I said, "I don't really know which one to choose." And he said, he looked me in the eye and he said, "Do you like fat?" And I responded, "Does this look like a man who doesn't like fat?" And he said, "Okay." And he came back with a plate of meat and cheese that was almost exclusively fat. One of the nicest things I've ever eaten in my entire life. I do have to say one other thing before we move on. You know how we used to go to other parts of Europe for the sunshine, knowing that we'd have to endure, questionable plumbing, undrinkable water, bad roads, bit of a step down in terms of facilities all round. Well, I can tell you, based purely on 5 days in Italy, the roles have now been reversed. Throughout my time there, I didn't see a single pothole. I didn't see a single road cone. Public transport ran on time, almost spotlessly clean. And on one evening, we found ourselves in a bar filled with teenagers. Only these were not like our teenagers. Most of them were drinking coffee rather than lager. None of them appeared to be on drugs. They were polite, they were welcoming, and best of all, we spent an entire evening with no one getting stabbed. How cool is that? I just can't tell if the Italians have caught us up and overtaken us, or if we as a nation just slipped back further and further. Not entirely sure, but I will be telling you more about Bergamo and what have you in the fullness of time, but stick around for that. I do need to go over to the chat because we've had lots and lots of comments. Let's have a look. Who do we have here? Steve Williamson says, good morning, Steve, by the way. Good morning. Where the hell have you been? Been lost at 10 a.m. every day without this show? How dare you take holidays? Well, I'm going to be taking, it's not a holiday, but I'll tell you in just a second. Peter McKenna's here. Gary Muirhead, who provides today's question of the day. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys, and welcome back. I hope you and the good lady had a wonderful break. We certainly did. Yeah, if anybody would like... a weekend break somewhere really, really, really nice with lots and lots of fantastic food. Bergamo. I'd recommend it personally. Dan Cullen says, welcome back to the Walrus of Demolition. Thank you very much indeed. Jim Turner, good morning to you as well. Let's have a look. Is there a shortage of red wine, Ruth Anthony? There may well be. She did put a dent in their supplies, it has to be said. Ken Hatcher says, good morning. Where you been? I've been to Bergamo and I liked it. There's Mick Norton. Good to see you there. Yep, definitely not UK. UK is going downhill, I think. Yes, well, as I say, I think when you compare it, and I'm going to be doing that again in the not too distant future, when you compare it, it does feel like that. Welcome home, says Peter McKenna. Thank you very much indeed. And Steve Williamson, Italy, an expensive holiday compared to Paris? No, I wouldn't say it was. I wouldn't say it was cheap, but I wouldn't say it was expensive either. Meal for two with all the trimmings, 60, 70 euros, I guess. To bear in mind, my wife can drink and likes a glass or three of wine. So yeah, I didn't find it particularly unreasonable. The hotel wasn't the cheapest, but it was very good. So yeah, not a problem at all. Now, I did mention the fact that I'm going to be going away again. It's only a very short one this time, but I do need to tell you about it. Let me just get this off the screen because I've got a thing what I need to show you. You've got the pleasure of my company for the next couple of weeks, uninterrupted, you'll be pleased to hear. However, at the end of the month, I am heading off again. And what I'm about to show you might give you a clue as to where I'm going and what I'm going to see. mean, I was looking forward to the trip anyway, but having seen that, looking forward to it even more. Yes, me and a fairly select group of people will be heading up to Eskilstuna in Sweden. I know I'm going to be seeing Mr. Grierson, Al Grierson is going to be there, and a bunch of others. I think Martin, the Norwegian Earth Mover, is going to be there. None of the hangers-on of the UK industry are going to be there. Incidentally, just going to say good morning to the Worthing Advertiser. Just thought I'd give you a quick update. You know what? We recently passed 100,000 followers over on YouTube. Well, we're at 103,000 now. So we're adding followers or subscribers at an alarming rate. Some of the busiest we've been in quite some time. And I can tell you, yesterday, in one day, in fact, not even 24 hours, in one day, or like a working day, we picked up more subscribers in one day than our so-called rival picked up in 3 years. I should say I almost feel sorry for them, but I don't. I'd like them to crash and burn. Let me go over here. Let's have there is Steve Williamson. I think he likes the look of my trip to Volvo as well. Love this clip, he says. Ken Hatchett, you going to the moon? If Volvo invited me to the moon, I would definitely go. Gary Muirhead saying sexy. I think he meant the Volvo machines, but if it was aimed at me, Gary, thank you very much. You're not so bad yourself. Peter McKenna saying Sweden. Yes, we're going to Eskilstuna. It's kind of, well, it's a revisit. I did this a year or two ago. Went up there for, we go to the Monktail Museum, so we can trace back the entire history of Volvo and Volvo BM and what have you. And then it's on to the new stuff. And apparently we've got a full program there as well. And here's how forward-thinking the fine folks at Volvo are, just to make it clear. We get invited to places. We get invited to places quite a lot. Oh, sorry, I just got distracted. Yeah, we go to places quite a lot. Volvo invited us. They've sent us the flight details. They've now sent us a link to a dedicated app through which we will communicate and what have you. So, yes, interesting. Is that an uninterrupted Saturday involved too? No, I think it's a weekday, that one. When are you going to JCB for their new product launch? I've seen a sneak peek of it, and I've been sworn to secrecy. It looks very good. I had an email from JCB, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, but I've responded to it now. I can tell you that they were sounding me out. I don't suppose they've just chosen me, but they're sounding me out to see if I can be up at JCB on the 13th of June. It's a very, very typical JCB thing to do, to be perfectly honest. There's a show coming up, Hillhead, and they like to get their two bites of the cherry. I think they're very sensible with this. So they show off uninterrupted. They show off here's the things that we're going to show at Hillhead. So all of us press people then go away and say nice things about it. And then 2 weeks later, we go to the show and we say nice things about it again. There's no mugs up at JCB, let me tell you. Chris Ford is in the house. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chris. Oh, nice. Can't wait to see the video. There will be lots of videos coming out of both the trip to JCB and, of course, the trip to Eskilstuna. And this time will be better up at Eskilstuna because I'm taking Fred with me. Last time I was there, and, I'm not the world's greatest cameraman, I'll be the first to admit it, but last time I was there, I was trying to both drive machines, report on machines, and film machines all at the same time. It's quite a hard job. I know some people do it very well. I didn't. But this time, I can spend my time actually crawling all over the machines, taking them for a spin, and Fred can stand behind the camera. Looking forward to it. Dan says, I'll take your place at JCB. I've got to be honest, it's quite an awkward one. If I could get somebody to take my place, I actually would in this instance. Not that I don't want to go to JCB, but my other half, having just had 5 days being wined and dined for our wedding anniversary, she's off again. She's off to Greece with my youngest daughter. So while she's in Greece, I've got to go to JCB, and I'm taking Fred with me again, which means that we've got to find somebody to look after the dogs for a day. Bit of a pain, but it's worth it. And as Steve Williamson saying, so jealous. Steve, listen, given the growth of your channel, I'm sure it's only a matter of time before somebody comes a-knocking and says, fancy Sweden, fella, at which point you say, okay, the new, and off you go. So there we are. Well, I brought you all up to date. We'll get on to all of the other stuff in the fullness of time. But first, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. I'm sorry. There are times when I literally glance at the chat and I'm thrown completely. So let me start with these. Dan Cullen saying that my wife is a lady of leisure. Yes, she is, although she will be at work at some point this week. Andy Novell, morning, Andy. Good to see you back. Morning, he says. But this is the one that caught my eye. Chris Ford says, not that one, it was that one. Hope you had a cracking holiday. My wife says sex is always better on holiday. Not the postcard I was expecting. Well done. Well done indeed. Thank you very much indeed for that, Chris. We'll come back to your answers on the question of the day in just a moment. But it is Monday the 5th. No, it's not. It's, what is it? It's Wednesday the 15th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the walrus of demolition. In today's show, we're making the case for electric machines, preparing a Miami racetrack for the arrival of Formula One, the benefits of Caterpillar rebuilds, and we're getting salty, I tells you, in Romania. Plus, we're popping back to Intermat 2024 to check out the biggest truck at the show. But before we get to all of that, we do have, let me just have Dario Rally, not sure how you pronounce that. Buongiorno, down Bergamasco. Buongiorno to you as well. Are you in Bergamo, or are you just responding to the fact that I was in Bergamo? One of those, but buongiorno, grazie mille, ciao. Yes, let's have a look what we got here. Yes. What was I saying? I know we do need to do Mystery Machine. So I've dug through the archives for this one. I'm telling you, I've gone quite a way back. So I do hope I hope some of you have been around for a while, because otherwise you will be struggling. I do want to say good morning. Good morning, everyone, says Michael Williams over on Instagram. Have a good day. Oh, we'll do my level best, Michael. You do likewise. Good to see you here. Now, Mystery Machine. I will get to it in just a moment, I promise. But just looking at the chat, we've had quite a few responses, and I will be reminding you in just a moment. I had quite a few responses on what was your first job or your first proper job. I talk a lot on this show about people having been inspired. You know, they've seen their father or their grandfather or their uncle operating machines, or they've been somewhere and seen machines, and that is a career for me. Lots and lots of people in the chat seem to be this wasn't their first job. It wasn't, that's the thing I want to do and I'm going to do it, by God. Yeah, lots of people coming via other avenues. We'll come back to that. But I did mention Mystery Machine. Good morning to Simon Skelton over on Instagram. We do need to show you the Mystery Machine. As I say, this is a blast from the past. So break out the magnifying glasses and see if you can tell me what this is. Yep. Anybody got any of that? Any idea on that? It's not easy. As I say, it's not a particularly common machine. It's an old machine. If anybody's got any clues on what that might be, I'd love to hear from you. I'll reveal a bit more in just a moment. But first, I do need to remind you very quickly of our question of the day, because then we've got to get on with the show. Yes, there you are. It was our question of the day comes from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. And his question is this: what was your first proper job? I had a paper round at a local newsagent. I sold newspapers at a stall near a railway station, and I cleaned a few cars along the way. But my first proper job was in the accounts department of a contract furnishing company. I didn't come direct to this either. The job was awful, absolutely awful, but it was made a great deal worse by the fact that I shared the office with a woman who played the same Pink Floyd album over and over and over again. I went into the job and I went into the office not liking Pink Floyd already. She made my dislike of Pink Floyd a million times worse. Now, Mystery Machine. We've had a couple of guesses. Peter McKenna is suggesting a dozer. Dan Cullen is in agreement. He believes it's a dozer. Could be. Gary Muirhead, however, believes it's a Cat 16G grader. It is not. Let me show you a bit more. Does that help at all in any way, shape, or form? Excuse me. Right, let me take that away because we'll keep that one running for the duration of the show, if you don't mind. So, first and foremost, we need to play this. Despite something of an anti-electric backlash among owners, operators, and of course the Breakfast Show audience, all of the major manufacturers now have an electric string to their bow. And those fine folks at Case Construction Equipment are no exception. Yeah, before I get to your comments, I want to see what our resident electric equipment expert made of that. What did you think of that, John?
It's electrifying!
Yes, I agree. Most certainly was. Lots and lots of guesses coming in on our mystery machine, which currently looks like that. What have we got? That was the last one from Gary Muirhead. Andy Darvell says, Liebherr 724 dozer. I can see where you're headed with that. Jim Turner is also saying a Liebherr dozer. I can see where you're headed with that. Peter McKenna is going for a Cat D4. It is not. Excuse me. Come back with a bit of a cough. Talking to my wife too much. Mystery Machine Cat D8L, says Chris Ford. It is not. Steve Williamson, is it a Liebherr? I can see why you're saying that, but no. No, it is not. Let me show you a smidgen more. There. Is that? I mean, that tells you everything you could possibly want to know. Maybe. Andy Darvell says, I don't think I've ever operated anything made by Case except for Case tractors. And yet there are certain places in the country where they have a real stronghold. Peter McKenna is going for a Cat 3306. It is not one of those. But let me take it away because I will come back to it in the fullness of time. But we need to crack on because I've got some fantastic stuff to show you. Right back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Those of you that are interested in such things will probably know that the UK's Lando Norris, whoever the hell he is, swept a victory in the Miami Grand Prix just over a week ago. But what you may not know is the amount of work that went into making the F1 track ready for the arrival of the F1 teams. This is how it went.
We're out here for the Formula One Miami circuit. It's a 2-inch mill and overlay project that we're just resurfacing the asphalt and getting it ready for this upcoming race in May. We're using 3 Work Gen 210 mills. We're running HOM HD80s. We have 3 of those, as well as 2 Vogely Super 2000 pavers.
We're getting about 15 to 17,000 square yards of milling a shift, so which is really good. And they are reusing the wrap here on site for future projects.
It's a 3.5 mile track. It took us 5 days to mill out the entire track. That's including pit lane as well. We have about 9,500 tons to pave. We're on day 1 of paving, and there's going to be 8 days total paving out here.
Their pattern that they love, foot per minute, is about between 38 and 40 feet a minute. We don't want too fast of a speed on the drum because we don't want humps or chevrons in our pattern.
Coming out here and getting familiar with the HOM roller and the Vogely paver went without a hitch. These guys were able to just hop right on it and get them going. So yeah, it's been running pretty smoothly.
It's all push button, it's operator friendly. Teaching new people is really, really easy because everybody likes video games. That's what it reminds them of, so everyone catches on pretty quickly.
With the HOM rollers being out here and the Vogely pavers, we've had some of the RDO support come out here on site and make sure all our equipment's set up the day before we start milling. They're doing our intelligent compaction and they're doing our thermal imaging, and they've worked well with us running through different scenarios to show and tell them why it's doing what it's doing.
As our technology manager, I partner with our Vertican product managers, and we partner in technology along with the machine. It's one place where a customer can get technology support as well as machine support, as well as cross-trained employees that come out and are trained on both. It's a great support system for our customers. We're able to gain a lot of trust with our customers by being close to them, being next to them, boots on the ground, and knowing that they'll be there when they need us to help them succeed.
I realise that any road building or repair project is always built to tight tolerances, but an F1 track got to be one of the most exacting and demanding jobs in the world. So hats off to the team behind that. I had a few good comments here. Mick Norton says, Vertican and Ham, quality products in any guise. I agree entirely. Dan Cullen says that's a tidy roller. Totally. Now. I thought I was going to pull the wool over your eyes today with our mystery machine, which looks like that. Apparently not. Dan Cullen is saying it's a Fiat Hitachi dozer. It is not. Gary Muirhead has gone for a Fiat Hitachi FD14E dozer. It is not. Dan Cullen has gone for a Fiat Hitachi FD175. It is not that. Chris Ford, Liebherr 734 dozer. Hitachi D150 or D175 says Gaz Evans. Morning, Gaz. It is not. Peter McKenna says Hanamag D600D. It is not that. However, he hasn't got the full answer, but hats off to Jim Turner, who has said Fiat Alice. Yes. Good morning to, let me do that again. Buongiorno to Komatsu, Italy. Komatsu, Italy, in the house over on Instagram. Great to see you guys here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So, Jim Turner went for a Fiat Alice. Peter McKenna went a little bit deeper and said a Fiat Alice FD14. It is not, but you're heading in the right direction. And Peter has also gone for a Fiat FD30. It is not any of those things, but you're getting ever closer. Ever closer. So keep the guesses coming in because you're on the right path. Let me show you a bit more. There you are. That's a little bit more of the machine. As I say, you're getting closer. So keep the guesses coming in. Also want to say good morning to Matt Phillips of Downward Demolition, who's just joined us over on Instagram as well. Smashing fella is our Matt. One of my favourites. Morning, Matt. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's have a look. Fiat Alice HD41. It is not. It is not, but you're drawing inexorably closer. Let me put it like that. And there we are. Before I can even press another button, somebody has it. Steve Williamson has gone for a Fiat Alice FD 255. It is, in fact, an FD 255-1T. I'm going to let that go. So let me just prove to you that Steve was absolutely right. And Dan Cullen has got it about a minute later. But there you are. Reveal all. There you are. It is, in fact, a Fiat Alice FD 255-1T. Fiat Alice, or as we used to refer to them when I was back in the press, they were called Fat Alice. Fat Alice dozers and Fat Alice excavators. We were bored very easily back in the day, but there you are. That's a fairly modern Fiat. Yeah, it's not that old. It's not that old. I can't actually remember quite how the debacle of Fiat Alice was slow and complex, because it was Fiat and Fiat Alice and Fiat Hitachi, and bits went that way and bits went that way. Can't actually remember quite how which way we went. Dan Cullen says, I stated Fiat first. Did you? You said Fiat Hitachi. You did say Fiat Hitachi. You said Fiat first. You didn't say Fiat Alice. You didn't say Fat Alice. That's where you went wrong, Dan, I'm afraid. But good guesses all round, people, and congratulations to Steve Williamson, who, despite being a mere child among men, he managed to get it. And Chris Ford, for some reason, is still guessing and has gone for the New Holland D180. No. No, it's not. No, we've already decided it's a Fiat Alice FD 255-1T. Enough of that nonsense. We have plenty more to bring you. Let me roll a bit of this and I'll be right back. Peter McKenna has just commented, I got Fat Alice first, Dan. I don't know whether he's talking about our mystery machine or how he spent his weekend. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't like to pry. Now, over the course of 718 shows, we've quite literally travelled the world to bring you footage of some of the hottest equipment in some of the most fascinating and challenging applications. But if my addled memory serves me correctly, we have never previously visited the home of Count Dracula himself, Transylvania. Transylvania. I think it's high time that we did, and we're about to right now.
We start the exploration in the period 2014-2017, and we are start to excavate in 2022. We are in Nireș, just 12 kilometers from Dej, in the heart of Transylvania. It's the first private project of mining in Romania. We have a concentration of 99% concentration of salt. It's the best one who exists on the market. In January, it was a top of 22,000 ton per month.
With the new technology, it's more easy, more safety, and more faster to work. It's very well built. It's very easy to operate this machine. Don't need too many people. Have one operator and two guys to guide the trucks, loading. The machine is doing everything alone. The machine is working like 1,500 tons per day. This is the capacity from the machine. In the full day, we take it out like 1,200 tons per day. you can cut 10 meters per day. It's very fast. It's very fast.
On a full production day in January, 62 trucks, that's 1,500 tons. That was good. That was a busy day. So yes, the guys from Sandvik, they come like around twice a month to check the machine and see if everything it's in order. It's a good machine. We didn't have any problems. If we don't have problems with the machine, we don't have problem with the clients. So that's a good thing.
I'm one of the operators of the Sandvik M520 machine. It has the feature of working automatically. It's named Catronic. It's doing all of the work for the operator.
Important is safety. I put as a manager safety first. And that machine, it's easier to work with. Mechanical cutting give productivity. I will recommend it because it's a good machine. The possibility are big possibility to maintain the relation with Sandvik.
We are talking with the Sandvik to buy another machine because we are very pleased with this one and it's very good function. And now we are in the discussion for the second one. And we decide because this is the best opportunity for our mine and for our conceptual project, to use this machine. It's a new concept, it's a future concept because it's not working like in another mine, on the old concept. The financing was by Sandvik. It was very good for us and it was a very good financial processing. And also we send some people for training there in the Sandvik, and it was very good because they are coming with a lot of knowledge from there. And the collaboration is very good, very professional.
Hopefully the next time a Romanian sits down for some fish and chips, they might pause to think where the salt on their chips came from. Or maybe they won't. I apologise for whacking the mic. Size of those tunnels, astonishing. Not sure I fancy working there. I'm going to go back to Mick Norton in the chat, who says salt mine in Romania beats the prospect of working the same in Russia. Yes, in Russia, working in the salt mines is a punishment. Tidy-looking site, says Steve Williamson. Totally agree. Peter McKenna says, I'm surprised they're only wearing paper masks. I don't know what the deal is there. Are they, given the fact that machine is largely automated, are people well out of harm's way? Not entirely sure. Dan Cullen was kind of distracted, says, I'd like to work alongside that lady. Love the accent. Steve Williamson also likes the way they talk as well. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says, wow. Peter McKenna, completely unrelated to that video, says, now better. Demolition news, a Marmite sandwich and a mug of coffee. I can think of a good few things that are better than that, but thank you very much indeed. One thing that did occur to me was with the machine, or the video that we just watched, the amount of toll that would take on the machines. So wonder if there's any paint left on them. I would imagine salt would rust machines like nobody's business. Maybe they rebuild, which is a hint at where we're heading in just a moment. But first, we need to do this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Just before we go any further, I just want to key something up that I'd like to discuss in the chat after the show, if you are inclined to stick around. That is being reported over on Building Magazine, literally as we speak. Not so worried about the Southwest part. This is a survey by the CITB, Construction Industry Training Board. They reckon, this is the CITB saying, the construction industry needs an extra 250,000 workers over the next 5 years in order to keep up with demand. Did we not report that like 2 or 3 years ago? That's not new news, is it? While other regions are predicted of stronger output growth, the Southwest is set to be the area with the biggest need for workers. The CITB says an extra 42,800 workers will be required by 2028 down in the Southwest, footy country, Nick Drew country. But is this not old news? If anybody would like to chat about that, please do stick around after the show, because I'll be doing exactly that. Steve Williamson says, going back to what I was talking about with the machines, they do a special paint job when they're working in salt mines. That would make a lot of sense, I would say. Peter McKenna says, since the Russia war with Ukraine, there's been an increase in the theft of farm construction plant of over 200% in the UK. Yeah, because whenever there's a conflict, whenever there's a downturn in the economy, you can guarantee that plant theft will go through the roof. That's just the way it works. Steve Williamson says, should we need 250,000 good workers? No, chuffing idiots. Stop giving out tickets to absolute numpties. Shocking on site sometimes. I mean, I'd love to sit here and tell Steve that he's wrong. But he's not. He really isn't. Now, I did mention the fact that we were talking about machine rebuilds, and we're about to. Caterpillar. You've heard of them. They're quite big. Caterpillar has been remanufacturing and rebuilding machines for as long as I can remember, which, trust me, is quite a long while. The ability to get a second or even a third life out of a machine has always made good economic sense. But at a time when the industry is focused on reducing its impact upon the planet and the environment, rebuilds make even more sense. A machine rebuilt is one machine that needs to be built with all the environmental impact that goes with it. So here's one Caterpillar customer that is helping his own bottom line, but simultaneously helping the environment too.
They're just such an integral part of our business that when you hear the word Jomax, you best be moving. If you don't even know what hurry means, this is a live pipeline project.
Jomax is focused on building new pipelines for our customers across the Midwest of America and integrity work on existing pipelines. Most of Jomax's equipment is Caterpillar, probably 90%. The biggest reason for us using Caterpillar is the service. They stand behind everything they sell.
I've dealt with Jomax construction for close to 30 years. I've seen them probably grow in size 4 times versus when I originally started dealing with them. A lot of people think I'm actually an employee at Jomax. I spend that much of my time with them.
Foley provides us with numerous amount of services. You know, we have a traditional parts and field service, leases, and technology with Vision Link, oil sampling. They also are helping me with when to replace equipment and when to rebuild equipment. We're sending in machines at a certain hour to get rebuilt before they're no longer functional and breaking down, trying to save our downtime.
They like to rebuild these high-drive D7Rs because they were loved the day they were delivered. It's got 11,300 hours, and it's been very aggressive.
Rebuilds when we take a customer's machine, tear it all the way down and all the way back together. Rebuild it to new, if not better specs.
We sold them 4 dozers, just like that D7R XR is new, and this is the 3rd out of the 4th that we're going to do a rebuild. They're really getting into what you call life cycle costing.
We timed out how long the components were lasting on the dozers, decided that transmissions last 6,000 hours and engines will last 12,000 hours.
they'll take where the hour meter is, where they've stopped using it, and the age of when they owned it. They'll measure that cost, and that will be life cycle number 1.
So rebuilding it a little early, he can get another life cycle out of this machine and saves him on downtime.
It just makes good business sense.
This D7R of Jomax Constructions is the start of our 257th CAT certified rebuild. This program has really become a key piece for Foley equipment to differentiate ourselves from our competition. Everything we do as part of the tractor, we do in-house. We don't have to outsource any of the work.
When the customer drops off the machine, we'll inspect all components for repair processes. We're going to take components off the machine. The hydraulic cylinders, the transmission, the torque converter, the final drives will all be rebuilt here. Our welders will be working on the blade. Our machinists will be working on the ripper. At a CAT dealership, you have multiple departments working on the same machine at the same time. So the time frame can be split almost in half. The neat thing about a rebuild is you get to see a machine come in, running, not running, but you get to tear it all the way down and all the way back together. You see it how it's basically never been seen since the time it was built. This machine's going to get upgraded with LED lights, rear view camera, the newest radio. It'll have a new machine warranty, the components will have warranty, and the customer basically starts from 0 hours with a new machine warranty.
Caterpillar machines, they've been promoted as built to be rebuilt. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I've been involved in 11 rebuilds with this customer. I've been involved with rebuilds with other customers in my career. It's built to go a second life.
In our field, Foley stands out to me as a provider. They back their product. It's not always that the CAT's the cheapest, but it's the service behind them that we can depend on. They're always there day after day.
If you watch the show with any regularity, you'll know that I often describe new machines as the shape of things to come. But I'm starting to wonder if the shape of things to come is, in fact, the shape of things past, only updated. It's an interesting take, I think. Now, going back a smidgen, this one is kind of unrelated, but it's kind of related, if you get my meaning. Peter McKenna says, double glazing experts Everest have gone into administration. Yeah, it's been a slow burn, that one. Apparently, they originally called in the administrators back at the end of April, but apparently, by the sound of things on Sky News, it doesn't sound like it can be salvaged. I do wonder with that one, though, whether there was whether we were past peak double glazing. If memory serves me correctly, Everest's main job, I remember the old Ted Malt adverts. If anybody's old enough, they remember the Ted Malt adverts. Their main job was basically replacement windows, was it not? I'm doing this completely from memory. I believe their main job was replacement windows. I would imagine we must have passed the point where houses are being built with single glazing, in which case, their potential market would have diminished. I don't know, but you'd have thought people in the glazing business might have seen it coming. Never mind all that. Mick Norton says the CITB skill shortage statistics are always notoriously unreliable, but the problem remains acute. The sector has failed to anticipate the shortages. Steve Williamson, commenting on the Caterpillar film, says, God, you're making me hate the UK more and more. Service trucks in the States that have everything you need on mostly all sites. UK, we get about 4 vans, 3 visits over 5 days to get things fixed. Yeah, if you go back and have a look, we interviewed a company that do service vans in the States. We met up with them at ConExpo, a company called Thunder Creek. Go and have a look at some of their products. Literally a trailer that arrives with your fluids and your hydraulics and your greases and everything else. One truck, one visit, everything done. It just why do we have to make life so hard? Jim Turner, sorting out the skill shortage, as he always does. Make every housing site a percentage of totally apprentice-built houses. That way, every site would double up as a pop-up college, meaning more apprentices would be needed, resulting in more fully trained people in the industry. Pop-up college. That's some smart thinking right there. Going back to the Caterpillar film. That's a fair-sized operation, says Peter McKenna. Steve Williamson says, I wonder how many spare parts were left after the rebuild. Yeah, and I wonder what happens to them. I mean, bearing in mind you're taking out old, replacing with new. What happens to the old? Are they melted down and reused? I actually don't know the answer to that. Dan Collins says that's some rebuild. Gary Muirhead, for years, a lot of manufacturers were not focused on customer service and after sales, but recently I've seen a big change in this, improving this by looking after their customers and operators. I would like that to be a universal thing. I'm not entirely sure that it is, but well said, Gary. Mick Norton says the skills shortage debate has always hinted that getting more young people on board is a solution, but thus far we've failed. There are not sufficient young people with the requisite work ethic and enthusiasm to plug the gap. We'll come back to that because it is one of the things that's become clear from our question today is that very few of you actually left school and jumped behind the levers of a digger. A lot of you have gone via a more tortuous route. So, given that, are we wasting our time going to speak to schools and colleges? Would we be better off going to Everest? I don't know how many people Everest would have employed. A fair few, I would imagine. Go to them, reskill them, bring them into our part of the world. I wonder. Mick says, morning all. Yes, I'm late, but I've had the best hospital appointment I could wish for this morning. I don't know what to make of that. Does that mean you've had some good news from your medical? Does that mean you had a particularly saucy nurse from your medical? I don't know, but either way, good. I'm pleased for you, Mick. Demo Darv says, just got back in my machine, half-mile walk from my bunker bin to the machine. Going to get my steps in on this job. Yes, getting your steps in. I have to say, my Apple Watch got a good workout in Bergamo. We were clocking 12, 13, 14,000 steps a day. A lot of it like that. Now this is sad. Sad day, says Gary Muirhead. Super Gran, the children's TV actress, has died at the age of 96. That is a fair old innings, though, isn't it? I remember Super Gran. I do remember. She was Scottish, wasn't she? Seem to remember she was Scottish. Don't remember much about it, but I do remember that. Steve Williamson says, SMT, even though I'm not a customer, have been nothing but brilliant. Good few of them on the phone, and they do a great job. Once again, hats up. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do this as a question of the day. Which manufacturers looked after you the best? Because I have to say, in recent weeks, recent months, SMT seem to be coming out on top. They are doing a fantastic job. So hats off to SMT GB, both north and south of the border. Mick Norton says, regarding the acute skill shortage, it's now time to move the emphasis recruiting young people to a major consideration for those aged over 50. I could not agree more. And Mick, Peter, I've fought this battle 3 times in the last 10 years. Nothing but total respect for the NHS, thanks to the Royal Marsden and the London Hospital. Hats off to them as well. Hats off to the Royal Marsden. Hats off to SMTGB. Completely unrelated, but you get my gist. Yes, but more to come. But let's have a look. Steve Williamson has just said, I blame schools for not focusing on construction so pupils can see the interest, see the options. The money is really good depending on what path you take. It could be the best job ever. Too much crap they get taught at school. Yeah. But again, bearing in mind the number of people that are in work and bearing in mind the fact that we do have people with maybe a better work ethic that have already been in the workplace, should we be concentrating our efforts to get some of those into our industry? Love to hear from you. As always, it is time for a smidgen of this. we will soon be turning our attention to a show that is now fast approaching. That show is Hillhead. However, we do still have plenty to bring you from a show that has just been, which is Intermat. Today's film is actually the first of a two-parter featuring a pair of massive Komatsu machines. If you're here tomorrow, you can find out all about the PC 950 excavator, biggest excavator at Intermat. But first, we're going to take a closer look at the biggest truck at the Paris show, and that is the Komatsu HD 605-10. I need to dredge this from my hard drive, so bear with me for 1 second while I go and find it. It is here somewhere, and it looks like this.
New Komatsu HD 605-10. It's faster, stronger, and better than the previous model. We are looking at the new HD 605-10. So this is the, let me say, European premiere for this truck. So you are looking at the first truck in Europe of this new model. We gathered the feedback from our customers, from our quarry and construction business. We took the feedback, put it into Japan, and they made up this. So what we are looking is faster, stronger, and better version of the HD 605. We increased the horsepower, so it's now faster because the horsepower is increased. There is a new front cooler. The whole complete setup is new. Transmission, torque work converter, actually the whole drive line until the final drives is reinforced to handle the more power. The payload is increased, so now we are having 64 tons with the new 10-10-20 payload policy. The perfect match would be, but is behind of that is the PC 950. So that is the match made in heaven. We can easily achieve like 1,000 tons per hour production with this pair.
There you are. Thanks to Fred at Diggers and Dozers for allowing us to feature that. Not even sure he knows I've featured that, but you get the idea. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson says, just feels like yesterday I was standing next to that thing. It does, doesn't it? Peter McKenna says, what all schoolboy dreams are made of. Chris Ford, here's a blast from the past. I'm sat here listening to the show, and the only thing that's going through my head after the Mystery Machine is Alice. Who the hell is Alice? Does anyone remember that song? Yes, let's have a look. Go back here a bit. Mick Norton says, when you hear discussions on apprenticeships, we naturally assume she is a young person. What's wrong with a 50-year-old going on an apprenticeship? Proven work ethic, enthusiasm, flexible, and culture make the older person a better bet for plugging the skills shortage gap. Interesting take, and I can't argue with that. Our friend Mick says, right, I'm not staying. I've got to meet the kids, take them all for dinner, give them the news, and hide the will away again. Mick, fantastic. Really pleased for you, my friend. Yeah, you've made my day. Sure, it's made your day as well. Peter McKenna says, my own experience with the NHS has been second to none. They do a great job considering they are undervalued, understaffed and underpaid. A little like myself in that respect. Let's have a look. Going back to customer care and what have you. Jim Turner says, recently had great service from JCB and Hitachi, both coming out to me and actually listening to what I had to say, even though I'm not the owner of any of the machines I was scrutinizing. Fantastic to hear, as it should be, but fantastic to hear. Mick Norton says, a Unison report highlighted that by 2050, workers over 45 will have risen by nearly 8 million, compared to with a rise of just 2.7 million for younger workers. Interesting. It's weird how these things roll together, and I'm going to try and frame this on the hoof. We've just been talking about rebuilding machines, giving machines a second life. What about people? What about taking people from other allied or possibly not allied industry sectors, retraining them, apprenticeships and all that kind of thing, putting them to work behind the levers or just in the industry in general? Stay safe, fellas, and good to see you back, Mark. Thank you very much indeed, Mick. You have a good day. Enjoy your dinner with the family. I'm sure you will. Right, that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. Well, the main part. Anyway, I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Good morning, all. Good morning, all. I can relax a bit now, go unscripted, and just go back to chat. Yes, let's go back to the very beginning of the chat. Yeah, lovely trip to Bergamo. I would recommend it. I was a fan. I was already a convert, but there was a bit of me because it was our wedding anniversary. I'm going to turn that music down just a touch. Bear with me a second. Just a little bit. There was a little bit of me, having been there a couple of times. There was a bit of me that thought, maybe it's just me. Maybe I like Bergamo more than is actually reasonable. Took the wife anyway. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic food, fantastic wine, fantastic people, fantastic city, fantastic all round. If you're looking for a weekend break, I really would suggest. If you like walking ancient streets and eating fantastic food and drinking very, very good wine and just being generally, we spent literally hours. There's up the top of there's a funicular railway, takes you up twice actually. It takes you up to one stage and then it takes you up a bit further. Our wedding anniversary dinner was right at the very top, but most of the time we spent on sort of the mezzanine level, the bit in the middle, which is called the Città Alta, which is the old city. And there's a place there called Piazza Vecchia, which is the old square, I think that's what it means, old square. We spent most of our time there. And a lot of it was sat, not in silence because we weren't getting along, sat in silence just watching the world go by, watching people walk their dogs, watching finely dressed Italian men and gorgeous looking Italian women. It's a fine way to spend your day, let me tell you. Right, back to the beginning. Who was here first? First off this morning, at 5:01. A full 5 hours before the show. Well, 4 hours and 59 minutes before the show started. Dan Cullen was here. Morning, Mr. and Mrs. Demolition Queen. I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with being called Mr. Demolition Queen. Welcome back, he says. Thank you very much. How the begoogled are we this fine wet day? He's up in Yorkshire. Didn't realise that. Morning from a dry and muggy Preston. Incidentally, I managed to miss all of the fuss and the stuff and nonsense with the Northern Lights. Did you all get to see them? I didn't. I saw nothing. All I got to see was a lot of photographs on Facebook and social media and what have you. Missed it completely. I don't know whether I was not paying attention, whether I was too busy looking at attractive Italian women to concentrate on the sky. Don't know what was going on. Missed it completely. Yes, look who's back. It was me. Steve Williams says, good morning. Where the hell have you been? Been lost at 10 a.m. every day without this show? How dare you take holidays? Yes, I will try harder not in future not to do that. Again, I made a conscious decision this time, I have to be honest. I literally decided not to take the laptop with me, not because I was planning to do a show at any point anyway, but I just thought, a couple of days, just a complete reboot, really, and sort of rolled out of bed at 8:30 or whatever it might be, went for a stroll, had a coffee, had a pastry, went for a stroll, had some lunch, strolled a bit more, had some dinner. Can't recommend it highly enough. Come back feeling fully recharged. Gary Muirhead says, good morning, Mark, good morning, guys, and welcome back. I hope you and the good lady had a wonderful break. We really did. Yeah, really did. Woke up this morning, despite the fact that I was going back to doing this, which I absolutely enjoy. Woke up this morning, looked out the window and thought, kind of wish I was looking at the Città Alta right about now. Garvin, Mostly Diggers, just joined us. Good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're fit and well. Have to say this. Garvin leaves me voice messages on Instagram, and oh boy, do I enjoy them. For those of you that have met him or have heard him on our shows before, Garvin is Irish. He has a way with words, and the way that he says Jesus never fails to amuse. In fact, he left me a message about something while I was in Italy, and I actually found myself saying Jesus. On the same subject, and this is how weird your brain is, we got home yesterday afternoon, took the missus for another cup of coffee, British coffee this time. It was Italian coffee, but it was in Britain. Got my coffee, and I said to the waitress, grazie. I'd said it so many times in Italy that I couldn't break the habit. So yeah, you don't know how lucky you are that I'm saying this all in English. Now, Dan Card says, working on a big farm today, loving the smell of silage. Remember that favourite smell. Not mine. Is there a shortage of red wine? Ruth Anthony, yes, I believe there may well be. I believe there may well be. And not just the red wine. The rosé and the white got a bit of a caning as well. Ken Hatcher says, good morning. Where you been? We've been in Bergamo. Mick Norton says, good morning, Mark. Ken Hatcher says the UK is going downhill. I think. Look, I realise I am of the age where I'm supposed to be a grumpy old man. I fully accept that, and it's a role I've been preparing for my entire life. But I genuinely thought that when you went on holiday, and I'm going back. I mean, my first foreign holiday was back in 1982, I think. And there were certain things that you tolerated on foreign holidays because of how it was balanced. So, you'd go to Spain. If you ate a salad, had ice in your drinks, sure enough, you'd get a dose of Montezuma's Revenge. No question about it. That's the way it used to work. However, you also had the Mediterranean, you had the beaches, you had topless women, and you had sunshine, all of which balanced out the wild shits. Fantastic. But the longer it's gone on, it now, bearing in mind our rivers, the UK's rivers are full of effluent. And I went to Italy, not that I'd expect anything else. I went to Italy and I was, icing my drinks and drinking the water and taking all of the things. Have we been overtaken, or have we just slipped back? Love to get your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed for that, Peter. Welcome home. I'm semi-glad to be here. Italy, an expensive holiday compared to Paris. Compared to Paris, I would say cheaper. Compared to the UK, more or less the same. More or less the same. I mean, our actual wedding anniversary meal was pricey. But it was 4 courses. It was in a Michelin-style restaurant. It did come with lots of wine and stuff. So, you get what you pay for. You can, however, in Bergamo, you can get yourself a €5 pizza that will make you wonder why you've ever eaten another pizza in your life. That's the difference. Love this clip. That was the Volvo one. Yes, Volvo. I mean, I don't think there's even a secret anymore. I think the build-up now is to the F-Series excavators. They haven't specifically said so, but that seems to be the way we're heading. So yes, off to Eskilstuna in Sweden to see exactly what they've got up their sleeve. Sexy, says Gary Muirhead. Peter McKenna says Sweden. Sweden indeed. I can't actually remember the dates, but it is the end of this month. The actual launch, or the official launch, is on the 29th. I think we go a day or two before that. So I don't know whether we'll have embargoes or whatever it might be, but looking forward to it. Gary Muirhead says, when you go to JCB for the new product launch, see the sneak peek of it and have been sworn to secrecy. It looks very good. JCB press launches are always very, very good. To be honest, they haven't actually aired to us exactly what it is that we're likely to see. I was half expecting it to be, a revisit of the 370X because obviously, I'm saying obviously, I would expect that to be one of the stars of the show at Hillhead. But I would also imagine, if this is their forerunner to Hillhead, I would imagine they've got something new up their sleeves in terms of wheel loaders as well. That's often the case with JCB. Chris Ford from JCB Country says, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you as well, my friend. Steve Williamson says, so jealous. Yeah, well, listen, it is it is one of the high points of this job. I mean, even things like, you know, I've been to Bergamo. The only reason I knew Bergamo even existed was because I'd been there with Despe a few months back. Badger Welding, our friend Simon says, don't forget you're coming to Tunbridge Wells before Sweden. I'm actually going to Tunbridge Wells next week. It's not an overnight stay because it's only about an hour and a bit away, but I'm going to do the show in the morning. I can't remember what the date is. Doing the show in the morning, literally jump in the car. Myself and Fred, we're going off to see our friend Badger Welding and see how he makes those fantastic artworks of his. So we'll be featuring that in the run-up to Hillhead because he's going to be at Hillhead. And if you'd like to remind me of your stand number, Simon, I'll be happy to air it right here. So my question of the day was, I say it was mine, it wasn't. It was Gary Muirhead's. What was your first proper job? And we had immediate. There we are. Steve Williamson said apprentice at Bricky. Yeah, bricklaying's loss was construction equipment operating's gain, I would say. Peter McKenna, forklift driver for an international shipping company in Preston. Gary Muirhead, another one. My first proper job was a garage door fitter. Yes, see? Yes, if you would like to meet the Artful Badger, that is Simon Skelton, go to stand number PA45 at Hillhead. If you are going to Hillhead, please keep me informed. Please let Simon know as well. Let's all get our heads together and meet up. Another one, Mick Norton says he was a labourer in a slaughterhouse. I think I knew that. Jim Turner, fitting suspended ceilings, partitioning, shop fitting all over Britain when I was 16. See, all these people that didn't come direct to the industry. One that did, kind of. Andy Darvell says, my first proper job was working for Andy Kane driving Moxie dump trucks. Absolutely loved it, and then moved on to dozers and 360s. That's the first place I got a taste of demo properly. Fantastic stuff. Royston Brown over on Instagram. I wonder if could that be Roy Brown? Could it? Don't know. But yes, going back to the point, we've got another one here. Dan Cullen says, I worked at a frozen food warehouse, loved being in the freezer for hours at a time, hence the reason that he loves the cold. But, you know, all of those people, what is that, 5 or 6 people that are regulars on this show, all of which are now very, very keen on machine operation, none of them started out that way. I mean, and I'm not criticising that. Listen, I've already said I worked in the accounts department of a contract furnishing company. It was my first proper job. And look what I'm doing now. What the hell am I doing now? So, yeah, I'm not criticising. It's just interesting that we seem to be keen to... We revisit this with the CITB thing a bit later in the show. We seem to be keen to be reaching out to schools to say, come young people, come join this industry. When most of the people on this show didn't do that at all. They went off, did a thing, and this is where they ended up. Mostly diggers. Garvin says he was a construction plant fitter in a tool hire company, so he did actually arrive straight in the industry. Lucifer, it's a weird spelling, just trust me. I'm fairly sure it's Lucifer. Started as a labourer. That's over on Instagram. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thanks for the update. Yep, started as a labourer. So, I mean, some people did come direct to the industry, but some most clearly did not. So, given the fact that the Construction Industry Training Board, and I can share this right now, there you are, that's what they're saying. That's not the view I want. That's the view I want. There we are. Let me take Dan Cullen off the screen for a moment. They are saying that we need 250,000 new construction workers by 2028. Bit like saying we need 300,000 new homes each year. Never hit the target, ever. But yes, they are. That is what they're saying. We need 250,000 more construction industry workers by 2028. So, I'm opening the question up. If anybody's got any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear from you. Are we wasting our time, even if it's only part of our time, are we wasting our time going out to schools and colleges and trying to convince young people to give up their hopes and dreams of YouTube fame? And should we be going out to other industry sectors? And we've already mentioned those that have been caught up in the debacle at Everest double glazing. Should we be reaching out to them and saying, pop on over here. Bring your experience and your life skills and your work ethic, and we will retrain you behind the levers of a digger. Should we be doing that? Love to hear from you. I've had a couple of things on LinkedIn that I can't see, so let me just make sure I'm not missing anything there. No. It's nothing to do with anything we're talking about here. Chris Ford, another one. Let me get rid of that for the time being. Says he was a farm worker, loved operating machinery and progressed to plant machinery. So, a more direct route. Still not a direct route, but a more direct route. My other half worked after school on Saturdays in a hairdresser's. You wouldn't know it from the state of her barnet, is all I've got to say. Washing hair and sweeping up on Sunday mornings in a sweet shop. Yes, I did a stint in a sweet shop as well. Did not end well. Well, it didn't end well for me. Let's put. I'll bore you with it sometime. What else have we got here? Lots and lots of comments on our mystery machine, which turned out to be the Fiat Alice FD255-1T. Who else have we got here? Since the Russia war with Ukraine, there's been an increase in the theft of farm construction plant of over 200% in the UK. It's that predictable that when we had, well, obviously COVID was one thing because a lot of machines got parked up and left for quite some time, but then we had issues with fuel shortages and fuel price increases. Those that are involved in the recovery of equipment and those that are involved in the recovery or the potential recovery and tracing of stolen fuel, actually, before it even happened, we've got an increase in fuel cost. Watch fuel theft go up. It did. COVID hit. It had an impact on the economy. Those that are involved in the tracing and recovery of construction equipment that's been stolen said exactly the same thing, that there will be a spike in construction equipment theft. There was. It is that predictable. And yet, now I've said that the headline read, we need 250,000 workers. Steve Williamson wants to make that a little more defined. He says we need 250,000 good workers, no idiots. Stop giving out tickets to absolute numpties. Shocking on some sites. Yeah. Gary Muirhead makes a good point. The CITB needs 250,000 more workers for their profits so they can charge us more money for our tickets. Yeah. You would imagine, if somebody could wave a magic wand and attract that many people, you would have to think that those at CITB, CSCS, CPCS, NDTG, and everyone else, we sat there going, oh, lovely jubbly, think of all the money. There's Peter McKenna with the update. Double glazing experts Everest have gone into administration. Sad, it's an old established name. Used to be a regular on TV. As I say, there was a guy called Ted Moult. I think he was a farmer who became a TV and radio presenter. Not entirely sure of his career path, but he ended up he was basically the voice of Everest back in the 80s. Mick Norton back on the skill shortage again. CITB skill shortage statistics are always notoriously unreliable, but the problem remains acute. The sector has failed to anticipate the shortages. I'm not even sure there's anticipation in this. There has never ever not been a skill shortage. Well, not in the last 35 odd years. I mean, when I first started working on Contract Journal, I was on the news desk, and I used to do the tiny little bits in between. I used to fill in the gaps between what the proper journalists were writing, and I was reporting 35 years ago on skill shortage, failure to rectify the situation, CITB predicting the need for more people. It's been going on for 35 years and nothing has been done. Steve Williamson says, God, you're making me hate the UK more and more. Service trucks in the States that have everything you need on mostly all sites. UK, we get about 4 vans, 3 visits over 5 days to get things fixed. And I'm not doing this in defence of the UK, because I think in some instances the UK is pretty much indefensible at this point. The one thing I would say about the way that the Americans operate, and I would say exactly the same about the Australians, is you are you are dealing with such long distances on a lot of occasions that you have no choice. You know, if you decide, if you're a Caterpillar dealer and you have to go out 4 or 5 times to fix a machine that's in your territory but 600 miles away, that's a ball ache that nobody needs. So better to do, take everything you need and do it in one visit if you possibly can. Still doesn't make the UK right. Doesn't make the UK right at all. Jim Turner, this is probably my idea of the day, I think. Make every housing site a percentage of totally apprentice-built houses. That way, every site would double as a pop-up college, meaning more apprentices would be needed, resulting in more fully trained people in the industry. I think in theory, in an ideal world, I think that makes perfect sense. But and I'm looking to those that are specifically those involved in demolition here, Andy Darvell among them. You try and get permission from a client to perform any kind of training on a working site. Not on your Nelly is usually the answer. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'd love somebody to pick it up and run with it, but I can't see it flying because, Dan Cullen says, a few hours on the job, had great feedback from the foreman, said you're the first guy I've seen check a machine before he starts and greased it up. Praise for doing what is required. It's a weird old world we live in, isn't it? Or a weird old country we live in, quite possibly. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead, to take a more positive approach, for years a lot of manufacturers are not focused on customer service and after sales, but recently I've seen a big change in this and improving this by looking after their customers and operators. I'm glad to hear that's the case, and I know I think Jim Turner said exactly the same thing. And yet, there is a major distributor of equipment in this country that I see going completely the other way. Literally every time I speak to somebody about that company, they are complaining about the lack of customer service. I'm not going to name them, not my business, but yeah. The skill shortage debate has always been hinted that getting more young people on board is a solution, but thus far we've failed. There are not sufficient young people with the requisite work ethic and enthusiasm to plug the gap. It's an interesting take, and I know we go on about this a little bit later in the chat. But one of the constant complaints about young people is the lack of work ethic. Now, I bear in mind I share my house with 4 young people, relatively young people, and all of them took a while, but all of them ended up with a pretty good work ethic. But what if you could bypass that? What if you could bypass the training of work ethic and just go straight to training of operation? So you take somebody of 30, 40, 50 years old out of another industry, allied or otherwise, put them behind the wheels or the levers of a machine, teach them that. They're already coming with a great deal of life experience. They're coming with the requisite work ethic. And, by that time, chances are, maybe they own their own home. Maybe they've got rent to pay. Maybe they've got children they need to provide for. In which case, do you not get a better bargain? Now, admitted, if you take on somebody at 50 years old, you might only have them for 10, 15 years. But that's pretty much the case with a young person as well, because people move around. Is that not an idea? I'm starting to like it. I hadn't thought about it before, but I'm starting to like it. People are going back to traditional wood. Please pay attention to a thing that I will explain it in the video. I was determined not to work while I was in Bergamo, mainly because it was wedding anniversary, but also felt like I needed a bit of a break. But I did have some plans to go and film a thing while I was there, to the point where I even sat down and wrote the script for it. But the gods did not smile upon me. First of all, the Sunday that I was planning to film it originally, was actually Mother's Day in Italy. So where I was planning to do the filming was heaving with people. I thought, oh, never mind, I'll do it the following day. And the following day we had a bit of rain. Not a lot, not enough to put it off completely, but we had enough to make it difficult. So I've decided I'm going to film it here, referring to there. But it does actually talk about wood and the old way of doing things. Oh, watch this space. Steve Williamson back on the customer service. SMT, even though I'm not a customer, I've been nothing but brilliant. Good few of them on the phone, and they do a great job. Hats off once again to SMT. Sad news about Supergran. I realise if you're probably under the age of about 40, you probably have no idea what we're talking about. But yes, there was a TV show called Super Gran. There was a grandmother who was a superhero. It was a simpler time. That's all I can tell you. Regarding the acute skill shortage, it's now time to move the emphasis from recruiting young people to major reconsideration for those aged over 50. I'm starting to agree you're right. Steve Williamson says, I blame schools for not focusing on construction so pupils can see the interest, see the options. The money is really good, depending what path you take. Can be a best job ever. Too much crap they get taught at school. And I would imagine there's a fair few other industry sectors who are bemoaning that as well. We do seem to have moved away from vocational training. And I'm certainly back in my day, and I've not been at school for 40 plus years. If you ended up pursuing something vocational, so metalwork or carpentry or motor vehicle repairs, basically meant you were particularly academic. You're not much with the reading and the writing. Go and do something with your hands. That was the way it used to work. And you're a girl, secretary. That's the way it used to work. I honestly not entirely sure it's changed for the better, to be honest. When you hear discussions on apprenticeships, we naturally assume he or she is a young person. What's wrong with a 50-year-old going on an apprenticeship? Proven work ethic, enthusiasm, flexible, and culture make the older person a better bet for plugging the skills shortage gap. I'm a man of a certain age. I'd rather not do an apprenticeship at this point in my life. But I've taken a career shift, and I can recommend it wholeheartedly. Let's have a look. Yeah, I did mention the fact that Jim Turner has also had good service recently, both from JCB and from Hitachi, both coming out to me and actually listening to what I had to say, even though I'm not the owner of any of the machines I was scrutinising. Fair play, JCB, Hitachi, SMTGB. I tip my tit for to you. Just feels like yesterday I was standing next to that thing. That was the HD 605-10. Biggest truck at the show. And not even one of Komatsu's big ones. That would fit quite nicely into one of the big ones. But very nice. And Peter McKenna, what all schoolboy dreams are made of. Yeah. Show them a few of those. Who else do we have here? Speaking of Hillhead, I don't know if he's still here, but I'm going to ask him anyway. Gaz, what stand number are you on? We've got our exhibition badges for Hillhead 2024 this morning. So looking forward to meeting up with everyone. Gaz, let us know the stand number so that I can direct people your way as well. Did I see any demolition projects going on in Italy? I did not. However, I am... I'll come back to Gaz Evans in just a moment. I did note, I don't know if anybody else saw this, I know Marco Lorini posted the fact that the Jumbo, that massive Caterpillar stroke Lorini stroke Despe machine that we reported on from Bergamo, actually, is now on its way to Rome. Despe have picked up a massive project to take down the old Alitalia was it Alitalia or Air Italia? I can't remember. But a massive job in Rome using that machine. So yes, Marco, Stefano, Roberto, if you'd like something to come and film in Rome, I'll make myself available. Gaz Evans, my first job, Ron Jeremy's stuntman. Really? And now you're tinkering with models. Can't believe you've been doing that if you were equipped for your first job, let me say. CITV should be setting an example, setting standards at the highest level. Stop thinking of profit. Unfortunately, that is what you end up with when you commercialise anything. I saw this up close with pre-qualification questionnaires. The idea of a pre-qualification questionnaire, in principle, is a good one. You have to fill in a form that says, these are all my details. This is how you will be billed. These are my insurance details. These are my tax and VAT details. So here is one piece of paper, or an electronic version thereof, that tells you everything you need to know about me as a supplier. But then you had individual contractors saying, well, that type of form doesn't suit us. We'd like you to use this form. And then another contractor would say, well, that doesn't suit us either. We'd like you to use this form. So you then had multiple different versions of the PQQ. So somebody had the bright idea of, we'll come up with an electronic system that suits everybody. You fill in the form once, and regardless how contractor B or contractor A want their information, they can extract it using this system. And somebody then looked at that and thought, that's a good idea, I'll do the same. So you ended up with not just one company offering a standardized, you ended up with half a dozen. So then somebody had the bright idea of, why don't we put an overarching system over the top of that to make sure that everybody complies? Guess what happens when you do that? Exactly the same. If the CITB were the only game in town, if they took care of all of the industry's training needs, if they assessed the need, like the 250,000 people that we need, and then went out to schools and colleges, advised on vocational training, got people into Bertram Newton and their other facilities, trained them, carded them, sent them out the door, all would be well. But now you've got CSCS, Nocken, CPCS, NDTG. You've got every man and his dog seems to have its own training requirements, its own training cards, and guess what? Money. The CPCS product was sold by the CITB to Nocken in 2019 for £3.8 million. And do you think Nocken bought it for £3.8 million aiming to break even, or do you think they thought, we'll pay 3.8 million now, but we will make hundreds of millions in the future? I bet it was the latter. Jim Turner says most housing sites have apprentices on already, but tying in the pop-up college idea with more favourable planning permission would mean the house builders would adopt it in a heartbeat. On the day that he is named construction minister, and let's face it, it's only a matter of time because we go through construction ministers like most people go through socks, the world will be righted by Jim Turner's arrival in Downing Street. Steve Williamson, attitude of young ones now is shocking. That's why they don't last in construction, because construction is a tough place. Always has been and always will be. Watching a young farming lady operating a Kramer telehandler, and she put many men to shame, says Dan Cullen. Ken Hatcher, 20-minute show is now all morning. I know. Garvin says, in government, do you have a Minister for Construction? Are they doing anything useful? In answer to that, yes and no. We do have there is a role of Construction Minister. It's one that we struggle to keep filled, but there is a role. What do they do? We have. I'm fairly sure this was the case. We had one up until fairly recently, and I'm going back only about 2 months. 2 months, maybe 3 months. The incumbent construction minister sat down with industry and laid out her plans. 3 hours later, she was in a different job. Not because of the feedback from that audience, but because somebody higher up in government decided, no, you're not fitting there, you go over there. How do you maintain, bearing in mind the contribution that construction makes to GDP, bearing in mind the number of people it employs, you would have thought that construction minister would have been partly a sought-after role, but also one in which consistency might be useful? Apparently not. No company will take on a 50-year-old apprentice. Sad to say, it's the truth, says Steve Williamson. And he also says, chuffed to say that Marco follows me on social media. Why would he not? You're a big cheese these days. We've been invited by HCM UK to share their stand with them. Right, okay, so just going back to Hillhead, if you are going to Hillhead, one of the key stands there always is the Hitachi stand. While you're on the Hitachi stand, look at the big machines and then look for some tiny ones, because stood right by those tiny ones will be our man Gaz Evans. Steve Williamson says, I remember years ago, like nearly 15 to 20 years ago, setting your digger ticket was not easy like it is now. Now you can get one same day, on site the next day. Stand A35 is Steel Wrist UK at Hillhead. Good. Do you know that because you're a fanatic? I think I know the answer to that. Or do you know that because you're coming? Is there any news coming from Mr. Muirhead? Steve Williamson, pop-up college will only happen if the government pay the building company. No company will do it because it's go, go, go. Sell, sell, sell. No time to learn. Jim Turner says, I'd love to be construction minister, but my eye on something closer to home. But I think I might need your help with it, Mark. I'll message you later. Not a problem at all. I'm already in. Garvin, that position ties in massively with the economics and growth development of a country. It really is an important pillar of a nation. Yes, it is. It is. And even if you set aside the GDP or the contribution to GDP, the number of people it employs, upwards of 2.5 million people, even if you set aside all of that, we need houses from construction. We need schools from construction. We need hospitals, roads, railways, airports from construction. You would have thought that number 10, that's where the governor lives. Number 11 is where the guy in charge of the money lives. You'd have thought that at number 12, possibly, there'd be somebody sat there with their finger on the pulse of construction, would you not? But there's not. Mick Norton says the CSCS decision to end industry accreditation by 31st December 2024 has forced tens of thousands of skilled artisans into early retirement whilst we're still whinging about skill shortages. Yes, nothing like a bit of forward thinking, is there? We don't have enough workers. We can't attract enough workers. So how about we make it more difficult to become a worker or to stay as a worker? That's the way to do it. Yeah. Only in the UK. Another reason for me hankering for a return trip to Bergamo. Everybody, that's going to do us. And I'm going to defer to Ken Hatcher, who says a 20-minute show is now all morning. Yeah, it takes us an hour just to do the show. The Mats Construction just joined us over on Instagram, and Faz053 says no one cares. Sad but true. Sad but true. Thank you for that, Faz. Everybody, please go and have a good day. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I can tell you one thing that we will be doing. We'll be showing you the PC950 from Hillhead. I've already got that one keyed up, so look out for that. Chris Ford, bloody hydraulic hoses. Yes. That's a phrase you hear rather too often, isn't it? You'd have thought by now we'd have come up with something maybe a little more reliable. Maybe. We shall see. Anyway, people, go and have a good day. I'm hoping that the sun is going to be shining a bit later because I'd like to go and film a thing, and it means me going outside. So I'll keep you posted on that. Steve Williamson says, you better be back. Can't go without this any longer. Thanks, Steve. I'm glad I'm an integral part of your morning. Everybody, go have a fantastic day. Let's have a chat tomorrow. See if we can set the world to rights, even if it's just among ourselves. Till then, everybody, have a great day. All the best.